Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings be upon you. On the name of God, the most gracious and the most merciful. And to all the beloveds of God, we are here today on presenting to you Healing is Believing, episode number 12 on Ancestral Energy. I am QW, and also on the podcast today is Imam Saab. Assalamu alaikum, Imam Saab.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, QW? Thank you for having us on the show again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah, doing very well. And likewise, always a delight to have wisdom from you to sharing with us on the teachings that have been shared to us from our teacher.
Of course, alhamdulillah.
And allow us to bring it to a public platform of spirituality, which is a subject matter which is of the unseen, and really is really truly appreciated by the one who has a real clear insight. And as we talk about today, our subject is ancestral energy. And truly, it's the essence of understanding that is so important, because the aspects that affect our day-to-day life, we need to understand the history on, what is our makeup, what causes someone to feel, why is there an outcome of a situation that has happened. So with this, Imam Saab, since you come across a lot of cases, if you can kindly share with our audience an in-depth here on ancestral energy and understand the importance of its essence, where it leads to, and how can we help people to live a really a wonderful life, in terms of helping them in eradicating any negativity that they are feeling.
Yes, of course. I mean, I think, with regards to your with your introduction there, I think what we have to understand first and foremost is ancestral energy is something that affects every single person in this planet. Yeah, ancestral energy is something that we have to understand when we're dealing with cases ourselves, and maybe other healers out there. There may be a small fraction that are talking about this right now. In terms of when you look at the healers as a whole, the healing association, as it were, as a a collective unit, there are probably only 5% who are speaking from the aspects where ancestral energy has a link to defining, your perspective and your position in life, in terms of moving forward, in terms of your blockages, in terms of a lot of things. So what we have to understand is that when we're looking from the perspective of ancestral energy, when we're looking at cases ourselves, as an association, we find that ancestral energy itself So I think what we have to understand is that ancestral energy influences the way that people are today. I think that's the biggest thing that we have to understand, is that if ancestral energy carries over, right? For example, QW, yourself, you have certain physical characteristics, and these are passed on from your parents, your mother and father, determine how you're going to look. You see, to a degree, the colour of your eyes, the colour of your hair, the expression of the skin tone that you have, it all comes from them. The information is carried through. Yes?
Correct.
You understand that. So then what about the unseen element of it all? In terms of, if, for example, during the development as a baby within the womb, that the mother herself nourishes the child, yes? She is the incubation machine. She is the machine. Yeah? The father is not the machine, the mother is the machine. So the mother is the one who's nourishing that child, giving it energy, giving it life-sustaining fluids and vitamins and all of these different things needed for the cycle of gestation to continue. But what about, and have we considered, from a spiritual landscape, the spirit of the mother herself? Because if the spirit of the mother herself is bogged down with negative energy, and also fundamentally she's maybe carrying something herself. For example, when that child then is born, the spirit of that child is then not born, at 100%. If you see what I'm trying to say, the coverage is not 100%. So then therefore when that child is then born into this world, it's born in a a spiritual disadvantage. Yeah? Is born at a spiritual disadvantage. And I think this is the key problem, is that we don't address the issue in understanding that the children today, why is it today that we're seeing a rise in all of these so-called kind of psychiatric disorders in our children? Yeah.
Would you also say autoimmune disease too?
Of course, any type of bad energy that is affecting our very genetic makeup and affecting our blood, affecting who we are, as an individual, as well as a community. But we have to understand that there is something more than meets the eye, and that something more is always going to be from the unseen, always. How do you explain that when people who are considered psychiatric or psychiatric patients that come under the care of the psychiatric, field, they themselves are hearing voices, seeing things, hallucinations. This is what they're deemed as. But what if I told you that the hallucinations were real? What if I told you that the very things that they were seeing were real? That they were not false? But because you yourself have been so numbed to the idea of consciousness, you cannot see them. But they can see them. But they can only see them not because they've been clearing their heart and because they've been doing all of these things of righteousness. Of course not. It's because they themselves have been so weighed down with negativity that they have now entered new depths of reality. That their reality is now set on a different paradigm, on a different level altogether. What we're saying is that, when people are locked into these realities, these negative, low realities, it's a real thing that is happening. Because if we understand in terms of consciousness from a human being's perspective, the spiritual wayfarer, for example, they are trying to climb the depths of consciousness. What about those who fall down the depths of consciousness? The levels of subconsciousness, the downward levels, the negative levels. You see, the dark, dreary wells that nobody wants to go down. Except, I tell you now, that there are healers out there who are putting their very souls on the line to help people. Yeah? Because they have to enter these worlds. They have to enter this reality, and it becomes a part of them. But they have to tackle that situation. They have to tackle that negative energy. This is why today, when you understand, and I've spoken with people who have memorized the whole Quran by heart, for example. Yeah? And that's a lot of memorization that one has to go through. Yeah? That in itself is a struggle. Yeah? But even then, when people have got to that stage, without accepting spiritual guidance or anything, decide that they're going to tackle negative energy just from the mere fact that they know the scripture by heart. And then when they're presented with a negative situation, right, i.e. a home that has been possessed, or there's dark forces at play here, what happens when they start reading? That negative force is aware of the level of belief in that individual. It knows that the heart of that individual is shaky. So when they read, the darkness will overtake them. But they're reciting the words of God. You see? So the instrument, i.e. the person, the operator themselves, has to be clean inside. They have to go through this sense of struggle. You see? You cannot become a healer overnight. It has to come through experience. And the healer themselves, and by and large, when you speak to the most accredited healers, they themselves will tell you about the dark wells that they have had to enter themselves, the things that they have had to put themselves through, and still walk around with a smile on their face. And I think that is a true testament to say when they are truly grateful, they are the grateful ones. You see,
this is really deep in depth and a type of knowledge that is hard for the mind to reason, but it is the truth.
Most definitely.
That a lot of in cases and individuals you hear are suffering,
yes,
and get treatment through drugs,
yes,
medication, and that is a form of treatment, but they have to look beyond that.
But you see, the treatment though involving medication, what is that doing? I think this is what you have to explain, isn't it? Or what you have to fundamentally understand. That if you're giving someone a dummy, you're pacifying that individual. So you have someone who's very sick. They're no longer themselves. They're no longer a son, a husband, nor a father, nor nothing. Yeah? They're nothing. And you've given them this medication, effectively making them a vegetable. Yeah?
And really disconnecting themselves.
Disconnecting, of course, but they're already disconnected anyway because they're in a negative state. Now, what we have to understand is through spiritual healing, and only through spiritual healing, can they be brought back to a sense of what is real. The normality of that person is regained. The balance of their spiritual balance is at a state where it should be. And I think that's really what we have to understand is everybody is at this kind of imbalance in their spirit. Their spiritual energy is at an imbalance. Why? Because of the ancestral energy of the past is now catching up with us. Because disbelief and misguidance is at an all-time high. And because of that reason, we are now suffering with everyone around us. And we all know someone. Yeah, the 6 degrees of separation, they say. You know someone through someone else. Well, you know what? If we're talking about our networks like this, our professional business networks, that you may know someone through someone else. I guarantee you there's everyone who's listening, within their immediate family is someone who's suffering with mental health, with spiritual affliction. We don't even need to go through that 6 degrees of separation. It's affecting our very homes. And what we have to understand is ancestral energy is something that should not be looked down upon or looked away. We must embrace the understanding of where it's coming from, and we must accept and understand as well, and never underestimate the force of negative energy as well, because it will overtake you. And it has done to many people. Many people they have many stories that they say, but many people keep these things to themselves, you see, because they're very traumatic experiences. And I think the more that we talk about this, and the more we get people to come out of the woodwork and say, listen, stand up and be counted. You no longer need to be afraid. There is a place of safety that you can come to, and they don't judge anybody. And we welcome all healers from all over, to come and have a discussion about this, because ancestral energy and the build-up of that, and because it's acting as a foundation, isn't it? If you are born into this world with a spiritual disadvantage, because the spirit that you hold itself has not been fully healed, because your mum's spirit, which was supposed to take care of yours, so that allow yours to kind of develop, hers was not 100%, because she was suffering with ancestral energy herself. But she's normalized the way that she's feeling, you see, because conditioning does that to you. This is why when you know that you're in the truth, for example, and this I can say this for anyone who maybe follows any particular scripture, when they look at other family members and they're talking about scripture, and the family members look at them as if they're bonkers. Yeah? Say, no, I believe Jesus was real and he did all these things. And I know and I believe. And they look at you as if you're crazy. So what about now when we're talking about ancestral energy, we're talking about, we can talk about the spiritual heart, but what about the spirit itself? That spirit is supposed to be your protection from God. And when we're telling you that you yourself are suffering from this situation, that a lot of the bad things are happening in your life can actually be explained by something that has happened from your past, but something that you are no longer in control of. And now when you have children now, if you yourself have not been spiritually balanced, and that ancestral energy has not been cleared, it will continue feeding through your family. Like a cancer, it will just keep growing and growing until you seek that help. And I think that's the most important thing. Do not be afraid to look for help. Do not be afraid to give up. Don't give up. Don't give up.
I think the more awareness we can create for this on a public platform, for people to understand the ancestral energy, the negativity, not only stemming from an environment of an external,
of course,
also what we ourselves can do to our spirit if we go into a lower state. Yes. But through reflection, prayer, reading. But then there is the element of ancestral that is so powerful and strong that you need help from a spiritual master who
Yes,
can
of course.
who can truly help with
Intercede.
these
Yeah.
intercede,
Yes, of course.
and has the tools because they have graduated in that field,
Yes.
and have the PhD of the PhDs, which is just a three-letter digit that we give for one that has mastered a particular science, a particular
course.
subject.
Yeah.
And we are truly blessed in our time to have that present, and a vessel helping, save souls. And the essence is to save humanity. So I ask our audience, if you know of anyone suffering, hurting, please connect with the DivineClinicFoundation.org. Our essence here is really to save a soul, save humanity. And with this, I'd like to thank Imam Saab for sharing such great in-depth insight in this matters, and trying to help all the people out there who are suffering from mental health, physical health, postnatal depression. I mean, we've got so many avenues that are affecting people in this day and age, that it is only through awareness and you, our audience, can share this light and bring others forward so we can help. And at the end of the day, we are created as a vessel to help and love and serve humanity. So I'd like to say thank you, Imam Saab.